Oh, will you look at that? It's my favorite time of year. It's time to say that Amazon is losing money, not making enough revenue, and is Amazon gonna go broke and bankrupt? Now, if you understand business finances, then you're probably shaking your head already and saying, not enough gross revenue means absolutely nothing on average for a company. Gross revenue is actually one of the most stupidest things you can look in a balance sheet or a fiscal report, which is true. And this is why I'm interested of this video, because people often talk about Amazon losing money, that Amazon is actually not profitable, and that's because none of them understand businesses. And this is by logically answered. One of my favorite channels because they provide a lot of interesting information, a lot of good information most of the times. It's rarely that I can disagree with them strongly. So I'm very interested what they're going to say about Amazon losing money again. Is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? So let's get into it.
Most people generally don't have a very positive opinion of Amazon, the business. They
True.
may love the service and convenience that Amazon offers, but more times than not, people aren't exactly fans of Jeff Bezos or how Amazon is run. The media often portrays Jeff Bezos as someone who makes tens of billions while his everyday employees break their backs for minimum wage.
I mean, that's extremely true, honestly, though.
There is some truth to this narrative given that Jeff Bezos does often make tens of billions every year, and his employees do have terrible working conditions. Their drivers are infamous for peeing in bottles, and their warehouse workers are often treated like disposable robots.
Oh, they're not just treated as disposable robots. Yeah, you get these pee in the bottle things constantly. So the thing about Amazon is they are ruthlessly efficient because the people doing the menial labor jobs can easily be replaced, and that's what Amazon essentially plays on. So they have been optimizing it to the absolute limit. For example, you have these watches, I think they were, or something like that, which essentially monitor you going on a pee break. If you go to the toilet for too long, and too long means the average statistical time that is necessary to do anything in there, too many times if you break this a given amount a week, you're just gonna get fired. The work conditions in Amazon, you can't really call them bad, but they don't treat you like a human, that's for sure.
One nuance that's rarely talked about, though, is the fact that Amazon does not actually make any money. And this has been the case for much of their entire history.
Okay, that is true. If you know the history of Amazon, then you know that Jeff Bezos convinced the investors that he is gonna make them a lot of money, but for a time they're gonna do riskier strategies and essentially not make money for a very long time. And he delivered.
A few years ago, they were able to achieve sustainable profitability with their retail business for the first time. But with inflation skyrocketing, their
Also, the retail business. Amazon currently is making a lot of money, as much as I understand, from a web server hosting and things like that. Essentially, they own a pretty large margin of cloud services and hosting, whatever you want to call them.
retail business has fallen back into the red by quite an amount.
When he says fallen into the red, that means negative profitability usually. In business finances there exist two terms: in the black, which means a-okay, and in the red, which means negative. There's no real green, you know. Green technically exists, but no person who wants to look smart uses that. Okay.
In the first 6 months of 2022, Amazon was able to achieve an impressive $143.6 billion worth of sales in North.
Okay, so this is a yearly fiscal report or just a yearly report? I'm probably going to need to explain a lot of things here. So yeah, this looks like a yearly fiscal report balance sheet or something like that. So there's two kind of reports usually when you're looking at companies. There's yearly report, which is literally from the first month of the year to the last month of the year. And when it concludes, you have all your everything in there, how much money you lost, how much you made, and subdivided between divisions and so on. But a fiscal yearly report can essentially extend, I don't even know if there's a limit technically, 3, 4, 5, 6 months into the next year. Fiscal reports are usually done when the government says that all the taxes and things are done, when the next year's budget has been officially been signed. Usually at the bare minimum, I think that takes kind of like 3 years for the government. Not 100% sure on that, depends on country to country. But usually that's how it works. Fiscal reports and yearly reports are almost the exact same thing. The difference is that you're going to see there is gonna be numbers. But usually they completely represent the same things. And also, this is for all of you who want to look smart and good when these things happen. If you don't know what's in a fiscal report or a yearly report, well, tough luck, because without someone explaining all that stuff to you, it's kind of hard to understand. Plus, I don't even know if there is some kind of like universal basis for what should be in a yearly report or fiscal report. They usually have most of the same things, but they radically change from company to company. And that's because, as someone who has done yearly fiscal reports and shit like that, they're extremely complicated because no one actually wants you to understand, simply understand the things that are written in there. And that's why we have things, for example, here I already can see it. Net sales, operation expenses, operation income, a loss. So, net sales in a lot of fiscal reports will be gross income. Gross income means all the sales, all the money you have acquired from selling products, from doing advertisement if you have that, from deals, from everything. That's all gonna be under some kind of income. Net income, gross income, or whatever you want to call it. Operation expense, now I forgot what the operation expense is, but that's essentially also gonna be net costs, gross costs, or whatever you want. Fuck, I forgot the right name. But anyway, that's going to be all the expenses. These are the 3 basic numbers that you're usually looking at and working with, and you want to understand what is under each. Just knowing these 3 numbers means that you understand what you're looking on, but in reality you need to understand what is below them, and does that fit on, and does that matter. So operating income is gross. God, can't speak properly. Usually pure income, pure profit, gross net profit, or something like that. It's gonna be called. Essentially, it's all the money you have earned minus all the expenses your company has created, and that is gonna be your net profit. The combined sums of those things. One minus the other. Pretty simple. I hope you can follow it. But this is important considering we're looking at things like this currently. Plus, I love things like this. So, let me rant a little bit, okay? But yeah, you need to understand what's under them. And this is the basic thing. And if you're looking at just this, you actually can't understand anything, because there can be extremely good reasons why the operation expenses in Amazon's case are higher than the net sales. For example, under operation expensive, which would be, oh god, should I even get into the bookkeeping jargons? Probably not. Anyway, under operation expenses, you can easily have new constructions of warehouses, new openings in new countries where the sales still have not been accounted for because there are none. For example, that's a real easy reason why the operation of the year could be negative. And there's a lot to understand here. So when someone says, "Oh, Amazon doesn't have enough gross sales," that doesn't mean shit. Because gross revenue doesn't mean a lot. Plus, a lot of people know pure profit, aka the actual profit margin. So you have your total sales, aka gross revenue. You have gross revenue, and then there's pure profit. Pure profit is usually a percent of gross revenue, aka net sales in Amazon's case. And for a normal company, if you have 10%, congratulations, you're doing pretty okay. You're doing actually really fine. If you have up to 20% or something like that, you are absolutely golden. But because people are currently looking only at things like Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, and all of those garbage platforms, which are literally places that actually have 50% plus actual pure income, and then they compare it to Amazon. But Amazon is a classic style of business. For example, car manufacturing. If you have between 10 and 20% as a car manufacturer, you're actually doing extremely, extremely, extremely well in pure profits. But again, since people are looking at all these Instagrams and places like that, which have a pure revenue of 50 plus percent, they all think that every other company is doing bad, but cloud companies are pretty unique because they don't actually need to put in a lot to get out a lot.
North America. But to achieve this number, they had to spend $145.8 billion, meaning that they lost $2.2 billion. Outside North America, Amazon was able to achieve net sales of $55.8 billion, but it cost them $58.8 billion to fulfill these orders.
Okay, from this, if you don't know what's happening, you're probably thinking, well, that's not exactly too bad. But if you're experienced, you're probably thinking, okay, this actually does now seem bad. It seems bad because we have regions. You have North America, and then you have the rest of the world, it seems like. If North America is losing like 2 million or whatever, however much they said this number is, that's one thing. But if every part of the world is losing almost an equivalent percent, that's actually bad.
Meaning that they lost $3 billion internationally.
And this is pretty close, honestly. This is pretty close because we're actually doing big numbers. And considering they are compatible, that means that currently all of Amazon is doing something that loses them money in general, it looks like. Admittedly, I don't know because I haven't checked Amazon, but it's possible.
While Amazon's executives like to play it calm when they talk to the media or shareholders, there is some evidence that they're actually scrambling internally. Likely the best example of this is all the rumors that they're gonna hold a second Prime Day in October. Apparently,
I'm not sure if that's supposed to be bad. I don't even know what the Prime Day is, honestly.
they're not gonna call it Prime Day though. Instead, they're gonna call it Prime Early Access Sale. Whatever they call it though, this is clearly a move to capitalize on the holiday season and bolster their quarterly report. But
Yes. Every company literally does that, by the way. Every company is expected to get a lot more revenue done in the last 3 months of the year on average. Because people are going to start buying gifts. People start to shop for Christmas. How, a month or 2 months in advance or something like that? I forgot get the numbers, but it's pretty insane.
why is Amazon's retail business losing money in the first place? And can the retail business ever become sustainably profitable?
If it can't become sustainably profitable, the company is going to go 100% bankrupt unless they have other ways to bolster their income. But if the retail part is unsuccessful and something needs to constantly save it to keep it afloat, then why do you even need to have a retail part in the first place?
Fortunately for us, Amazon has been a public company for a long time, meaning that all of their financials for the past 25 years are all public.
Yep.
By far the largest category.
If you want to find those fiscal year reports or yearly or quarterly reports, all you got to do is Google Amazon, the year that you want, fiscal or yearly report, and that's it. First link probably.
In which Amazon spends money is actually acquiring the products that they sell. If it's an Amazon branded product like
Okay, currently I see nothing wrong. This is literally exactly as the vast majority of businesses.
Like a Kindle or an Alexa speaker. This consists of directly paying suppliers for the product and shipping it to their warehouses. If it's a
Yes.
private label brand or a third party seller, however, this is the portion of the revenue that Amazon has to share with these parties. In the first 6 months of
Yes.
2022, this number came out to being 130.
Oh, see? Operation costs, and then you can actually see it a lot better. What do we have? Well, actually, he's gonna say what we have.
$2.9 billion. This is not a bad thing given.
Okay, he didn't, so we're gonna fucking check what we actually see here. Operation expenses, aka that's how much money you pay in total for people. Fulfillment. Fuck, this is internal company language. Cost of sales. This is all internal company language. This is why this again. No one wants you to understand what this means. Technologies and content. What the hell is content? Sales and market. At least they didn't call that like graphic making or whatever. General and administrative. Okay, that's understandable. Other yeah, income. Oh god. So yeah, again, no company wants you to actually understand what's in a fiscal report. It is so much easier if no one understands that except the company themselves.
$2.9 billion.
Also, when you're a company as big as Amazon, you actually need a literal army from the government to actually understand if you're not cheating your balance sheets. If you're not cooking the books somewhere. It is just absolute insanity.
This is not a bad thing, given that this is where you want Amazon to spend money. You want them to spend money on acquiring good quality products, and by the looks of it, they're spending over half of their revenue on acquiring products. But this is actually super misleading. You see, the variance in how much Amazon has to share with their sellers is insane. When it comes
Okay, I understand that, but that technically has absolutely nothing to do with the well, it has something to do with the numbers we see here. But wait, why did he say more than half? Because when we see the cost of sales. Oh, so this is product acquisition essentially. Another way that you could call it. Okay, got it. So, yeah, but oh, no. Ignore what I said. I know where he's going with this.
Amazon has to share with their sellers is insane. When it comes to large brands like Apple, Amazon has to hand over well above 90% of the revenue.
Yup, and I can tell you why this is. So, usually every company does it in one simple way. They want to do X and get money. Every company will try to make it so they need to do as little as possible of X to get as much possible money from doing it. That is every company's goal. But Amazon is going pretty wide. Usually companies just don't branch out, do other things, and create, make new warehouses, new storages, and so on. Amazon did because they understand that a way to also make profit is to just do it more. If you can do a single thing one time and get $50 from it, if you can do it 2 times and get $60 from it, yeah, you're doing double the work for almost no extra money, but you're still making a profit, and that's the whole idea here.
To Apple. But when it comes to FBA sellers, however, this number is usually closer to 20 to 30%, if that. And this is what leads to the vast discrepancy in quality across Amazon.
Yeah, but how many iPhones actually people are buying from Amazon? I don't believe it's that much.
Anyway, Amazon's second most expensive category is, of course, fulfillment. Shipping any product to any household in America within 48 hours, if not 24 hours,
that does make sense that it would be fulfillment. Hey, I have never worked in anything that has the word fulfillment.
By no means a cheap endeavor.
Usually it's gas prices.
It takes hundreds of thousands of warehouse workers, delivery drivers, pilots, trucks, planes, warehouses.
Oh yeah, because Amazon said, you know what? This whole get someone else to ship your things worldwide with the plane, pretty expensive. How about we just make our own airplanes with blackjack and hooker, and it worked out.
Boxes, packaging materials, and who knows what else.
That's, by the way, the reason why I thought that Amazon could be taking over the world, because that's what a mega corporation does. It just does not rely on anyone, pretty much. It just, you know, this happened in supermarkets to a degree. Probably a lot of people are experiencing this. So previously, supermarkets did not actually make their own corn, make their own peas in a pot, and make their own things. They bought everything. But supermarkets became big enough. At one point, they could invest into producing their own brand of peas, their own brand of clinics, tissue papers, and all of that stuff. This is what big companies do. They get rid of they get rid of outsourcing because it's always going to be cheaper to do it themselves.
Within the first half of 2022, fulfillment cost Amazon $40.6 billion, which works out
Okay, so this is pretty. This is kind of okayish, right? Buying shit, and this is how much is this? This is like so buying shit is roughly 54% of your total operation costs. That's not that bad, honestly. That is that is pretty decent, I guess, just on paper, because we actually need to see the actual pure profits here to deduce is anything good or bad. And fulfillment being that, well, that kind of always depends. Like getting things, you make it lower? There's a lot that goes into these categories. Usually buying shit is a whole separate department. Fulfillment is a separate department. This is a separate department. That is a separate department. And you know what? Considering there's so much to do and cost of sales, that's probably 2 or 3 separate departments. You know, there's so much going on under this.
$6 billion, which works out to a little more than a sixth of their revenue during the same time period. This means that, on average, whenever you buy something on Amazon, roughly 1/6 of your purchase price literally goes towards just getting it to you.
Yeah,
Speak about
but that's
expensive
okay.
shipping. Moving on, we have the technology and content category. This includes all of the licensing fees that Amazon has to pay for Prime movies and music. This also includes
Oh,
development and maintenance expenses for things
yeah, I completely forgot about that because I don't use Amazon almost for anything.
like Alexa and Twitch. Within the first 2 quarters of 2022, these added up to $32.9 billion. And that brings us into our final major expense, which is sales and marketing. Amazon is actually rather conservative when it comes to running ads. Well, technically, this category did add up to being
Yeah, actually, that's true. It depends on the company, but yeah, sales and marketing can actually be a huge percent of your expenditure. Huge. But it doesn't seem like that for Amazon because let's face it, everyone knows what Amazon is.
$18.4 billion. But in comparison to their net sales, this is not even 10%. There are a few other categories that Amazon spends money in, like general and administrative and miscellaneous expenses, but these aren't particularly notable. General and administrative came out to $5.5 billion, while miscellaneous expenses came out to $339 million.
I mean, you say that, but that's almost a third of sales and marketing. So you know, it still adds up. And every bureau's job is to essentially reduce these numbers as much as possible.
And it's really just the first 4 categories that really weigh down Amazon's bottom line. By the time they're done paying for those categories, they either have little money left or they're in the red. If Amazon's retail business is at best a low margin business, how did Amazon become a trillion-dollar company in the
Okay. If you say it's a low margin business, then I instantaneously demand to know what's the margin. Because even 5% pure profit is actually not bad. It means you're struggling, don't get me wrong, but even 5% is still functional.
first place? Well, this is not a new question by any means. In fact, Jeff Bezos and his executive team were thinking about this not 5 or 10 years ago, but 22 years ago. This is when the dot-com crash unfolded, which essentially wiped out Amazon stock. Amazon stock would crash 95%, but
Damn.
Amazon was actually one of the lucky survivors. The vast majority of internet companies straight up went bankrupt and shut down. But while Amazon survived this bloodbath, it was clear to Jeff Bezos that they couldn't just keep betting on retail.
Well, look at him. He still has hair and doesn't look like the devil. That's amazing.
If they truly wanted to become a leader in retail,
You know this is stock footage. Look at this dude. Yeah, he would never make it there. A fedora, get the fuck out. A hoodie on a... She's from marketing. No, no. She's definitely... Yeah, this is real. She actually is from marketing. You know that random fucking marketing hottie that some magically how ends up in your conference for some reason, and she's just sitting there not saying anything because she's completely out of your depth. But for fucking some fucking reason, she's still there. Oh, a business classic, boys. And yes, this is also fake.
he knew that they had to spend decades building up logistics, fulfillment, and product diversity.
Okay, that is true. That is understandable. A decade is a long, very long time. Arguably, way too long of a time to set up logistics chains and shit. But if all of that is set up, then their operation costs should be lower. But admittedly, I don't know how this is for America. Maybe the numbers are actually good. Admittedly, like hell, any one of you can actually tell me if that's true or not. But maybe.
And all of that would probably leave the business in the red. In the 1990s, Jeff was able to use the hype surrounding internet companies to raise extraordinary amounts of money to keep the money pit afloat. But with the dot-com crash, that was clearly no longer viable. So the executives started brainstorming about how they could sustain Amazon's retail business. They didn't want to spend a lot of effort entering a completely different industry or inventing something new, because that would just take away from their retail business. So they looked for ways in which they could leverage what they already had. One
Books?
of their first ideas was to create a service called Merchant.com that could help people create online stores. Amazon already had a lot of experience building an e-commerce business, so they figured they'd be pretty good at helping others do the same thing. And given their reputation within e-commerce, they were actually able to attract some high-quality clients like Target. But very quickly, they realized that offering this service was more of a full-time gig rather than a side gig.
Uh, yeah, that should have honestly been pretty visible and understandable from the very beginning.
So they shut down Merchant.com pretty quickly. Ironically, Shopify has since started a full-on business around just this, and at the peak, they were worth over $200 billion.
Damn.
But anyway, going back to the struggling Amazon, they
You know that this is the C-suite, boys. Every company worth shit has a big building like this. Wait, actually, maybe it's not. I don't see any windows. There's usually windows. But usually the executives, all the big dogs, the board of directors, they sit exactly here. There's one elevator going there. There's maybe fucking stairs. And all the big dogs sit right here. I mean, have they... Do they not understand that that's like one bazooka away? Like, seriously, you find a building like this with a big logo, you shoot the tallest place with the windows, you're probably killing the executives. Like, damn.
had to find new options. Leasing out their expertise wasn't quite working, so they started thinking about what else they could lease out. They could lease out their fulfillment service, and this is something that they would eventually do. But as a startup, this was too big of an undertaking. Something that was easy to lease out, though, was their computer infrastructure. They had plenty of servers, databases, and networks. What if they just leased these out? And that right there marked the beginning of Amazon Web Services, or AWS.
Yeah, they're big. They're like, I think they're the main competitor with Google.
Most people have never heard of AWS and will probably never buy an AWS offering. But this is the secret that has been keeping Amazon alive. While Amazon's retail margins aren't
Too big to fail, boys. Too big to fail.
that impressive, the same cannot be said about their cloud business. In terms of revenue, AWS doesn't pull in all that much in comparison to Amazon's total revenue. In the first 6 months of 2022,
Net sales, operation expenses, income. That is a solid 1/3. That's a 33%. That's a 33%. Nice. That's good. That's good.
AWS pulled in $38.1 billion, which
And that is how much they lost. Five bill. So that covers it.
works out to roughly 1/6 of Amazon's total revenue. But AWS carries a monstrous operating margin of 32%, which leaves them with an operating income of $12.2 billion. Now, compared to Amazon's total revenue, this is still not that much, but it has been enough to bail out the retail business for the past
Yup.
16 years. Without AWS, Amazon would have lost about $5.2 billion from the retail.
Wait, have they seriously been doing bad for? Seriously, they have not been making anything for the last 16. What the fuck? Serious? That actually surprised me a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Business within the first half of this year. But with AWS, Amazon ended
Yeah, that means they like have. It's good. Yeah, it works.
up profiting just under $7 billion. Now, of
That's
course,
a lot of
that's
money.
just operating income. After Amazon wrote off $15 billion due to losses from Rivian and other investments, they were
The fuck is a Rivian?
back in the red with a net loss of $5.8 billion.
Classic.
Also, we should mention that that's with the $2 billion tax rebate. Without this rebate, Amazon would have lost $7.9 billion. And if it weren't for AWS, that loss would have jumped up to over $20 billion. Ironically, that's about how much Walmart profited in the most recent 12-month period.
Walmart is so fucking underrated.
So clearly, Amazon's retail business nor their investments are performing especially well right now. But can Amazon turn things around? Well, it depends on how you define turn things around. If you define it as simply, can Amazon's retail business become profitable again? Then the answer is absolutely. As Amazon hikes Prime membership fees and FBA seller fees, they're essentially passing on inflation.
No, that's not a good thing to say. That is definitely not a good thing to say. So Amazon has pretty. What's the current stock price for Amazon? Probably still pretty big, right? But Amazon essentially has cornered the market. Everyone is already almost using Amazon. Everyone who wants to buy shit is already probably to a certain degree using Amazon. I said I don't use Amazon, but I still kind of use Amazon like once a year when I need to buy something. But I don't buy shit often, so technically I'm a normal Amazon user in that sense, I guess. So, yeah, pumping up costs, pumping up prices is not really technically. This is the best time to do it because you have already probably covered up almost all of the market that can be covered up. So the operation cost will go down because there's less shit to do, and the shit that you do is more profitable. This is what I said at the start. You're doing X and you want to do X as little as possible to get as much money as possible. This is what they're now trying to do. This is what companies usually do. Okay, this is usually how companies try to operate from the very start. Amazon covered the whole world and now they're doing it, which technically, well, actually, no, I think they're not doing it. That's what he just said they should do. I don't know. They're already doing those crazy Twitch changes that people fucking hate. The risk, obviously, I mean, on paper, that idea sounds great, right? But there are obvious risks to doing something like this. And that risk is, what if people don't like it? What if Amazon suddenly is too expensive for people to buy? If you have 100 people and those people give you $200, if you shrink it down to 75 people, but those people give you $250, now that's worth. Even if you have 75 people now and they still give you $200, that's still worth it because you are gonna win because your operation costs have been lowered, aka your profit margins grow. Even though technically you did not get any more money, but you technically did not get any more money. It's still 200. But considering now you need to do less work to get those 200, your operation costs have gone down. So that's still a net positive, even in that situation.
to customers and sellers. And it's just a matter of time until they're able to
But people don't look at things like that. If there suddenly pops up a new website that offers things lower than Amazon, there's no such thing as loyalty nowadays.
squeeze back into the green. But if we define turn things around as becoming truly profitable, then things aren't so clear. Margins across the retail industry are generally just not that great. Walmart, for example, has
True.
dominated North American retail for decades. But even Walmart is only able to achieve a 2.5% net margin.
Yeah, that is pure profit. He means again. In finances, you have so many ways to call things. It's just insane. You just need to understand what people are talking about. Okay, that's the reality of it. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It literally doesn't surprise me because Walmart again, they're completely dominating the market because they want it to be small because the extra amount of work, the extra amount of people coming into the stores because it's small outweigh increasing the outweigh the pure profits. Like Walmart could get probably pure profits up to like 5 or even maybe 10% if they really wanted to, but that would mean an overall decrease in revenue. These numbers directly interact with one another.
Even at their peak, they weren't able to cross a 4% net margin. A similar trend can be seen with Target as well.
Isn't
Target was
Target
able
bad?
to reach a peak margin of 6.5% during the pandemic, but
Isn't Target a fucking Australian? Bruh, I don't even know what Target is.
that's already coming back down to their average of 4%. While Amazon does not have to pay for stores like these guys, Amazon ends up spending all that money on fast home shipping, so it really doesn't make a difference. While I don't think Amazon's retail business will perpetually lose money forever, I also have a tough time ever seeing them cross a 10% net margin. So,
Bruh, if Amazon. Okay, so this is what's gonna happen to Amazon stock. If this has been real, and for the past 16 years, they have been in the red with their shipping and shit, then the quarterly, yearly, or whatever report says that they have actually made a single fucking penny, their stock is gonna skyrocket.
we'll probably never see Amazon's retail business reach the insane 20, 30, 40% margin
No, 20, 30% I think is pretty much impossible also.
of their FANG peers. But that's just the reality of the industry that they're in. Alright, boohoo. A massive corporation doesn't actually make as much money as you might think. But why does that even matter?
They
Well,
do though.
the reason that might matter is because of Amazon stock. Amazon stock has historically always traded at a high PE ratio, which is the ratio between a company's earnings and their market cap. Mature companies generally trade for a PE ratio of 10, but Amazon is trading for a PE ratio of almost 110. Historically, this was tolerated because Amazon was growing so fast. I mean,
Yeah. Again, stocks are memes. They're just based on hype.
they have yet to have a year-over-year decline in revenue. But at the same time, it's also clear that they're starting to level out. This isn't a bad thing, it's actually just natural. But it also raises a lot of red
Uh, it is a natural thing, but it is always a bad thing. We have already seen it a couple of times now. I think even this year, the crash of Netflix and things like that. People just understand that these companies have effectively reached all the market that they can reach, and the moment that dawns on people, that means that there's no more growth. AKA, the stock's gonna go down.
flags as to whether Amazon should have such a high PE ratio anymore. Investors are starting to become wary, and this is already evident in the charts.
What's the fucking Amazon dividend yield? 3%, 2%, 1%, 10%, but they withhold their, but they reinvest their earnings every fucking year?
Amazon was the
No, that's probably too esoteric. Most of you have no fucking idea what I just said now.
only FANG company whose stock didn't go vertical during 2020 and 2021. Their stock has basically been going sideways for
Well, yeah, people got them fucking need bucks and they obviously spent it on Amazon because it's not like they could leave the houses to actually go to places and spend it. Amazon won bigly.
over 4 years now. For perspective, Apple stock is up 175% since 2018, even after accounting for the recent sell-off. So there's no doubt that
Apple had a fucking sell-off? I'm not even following that shit.
Amazon stock has stalled. The real question is whether this is simply a pit stop or a sign of something much more bearish. Are you a fan of Amazon, the business? Comment that down below.
I'm a fan of Jeff Bezos. I pray to him every night before I go to sleep so I can make people's lives as miserable as he does. He is a true hero. He is a true visionary. If someone can make the world into a robotic slave pit, it's our boy Jeff, and I respect him for that.
Also, drop a like if you wish that this bear market would just be over
Bitcoin down 1.6%. Woof, man, that's old.
already. And of course, consider checking out our Discord community to suggest future video ideas.
Okay, that was pretty much it. He didn't go too deep into it. There's a lot of things you could say about Amazon, but I think we probably did a good job. A 12 minutes long video, and this now video is 40 minutes long. Yeah, we talked about a bunch of finance things that I am interested in, but you're probably not. So, well, there goes the retention numbers on YouTube. But hey, I like it. Anyway, like and subscribe.